The revocable request.
Right.
Yeah.
So we recording?
Yep, we're on. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, welcome to the June 2026 Community Board 7 Transportation Committee meeting. I'm Ken Coughlin, co-chair, Sophia Valla, co-chair. And the first thing we have to do is approve the agenda. Hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
I deem it approved.
By acclamation.
So let's see.
The first item is a presentation from New York City DOT on the public e-bike charging program. And I see that we have Colleen and Elaine on. So Elaine, if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
Hey, committee members, thank you so much. It's Colleen Chatterton from City Department of Transportation. Tonight, we will be giving a presentation on the public e-bike charging program. Elaine will be delivering the presentation. So thank you so much for hosting us this evening.
Sure thing.
Thank you for coming.
All right. Should I get started?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I know you guys have a packed agenda, so I'll try to be quick with this. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Elaine. I'm the program manager for public e-bike charging here at DOT. We are currently in our outreach phase of the program, looking to finalize sites by the end of this year. And so I'll get started. So just to start off with, DOT, we really do, support the use of micromobility, but we also know that this comes with challenges in itself. In the last couple of years, from electric bikes, we have seen over 900 fires from lithium-ion batteries in particular. And as we've talked to the fire department, there's really two major reasons for this. The first one is the use of uncertified and low quality batteries. And the second is improper charging practices. So what has DOT done so far about this issue? In 2024, we conducted a pilot program testing different types of electric battery charging technology. And what kind of came out on top were these things called battery swapping cabinets. You can see here on the images on the left side. We asked over 100 delivery workers to test out this type of technology and see how they liked it. What we heard back was that not only was the battery swapping option very popular, but many of the workers actually said that they completely eliminated their need to charge indoors because they could rely on some of the cabinets that were out there. This helped us kind of understand that this can be a viable solution to fire safety and reduce at-home charging. The workers also just expressed that they'd be willing to pay for a service like this if it was located in those key areas and if it reduced their battery-related expenses. But of course, we didn't just ask workers about how the technology was. We also just got to understand, what are their needs. One of the things we heard constantly was that most workers carry an extra or spare battery on shift. And, these are pretty bulky batteries, right? They're no iPhone batteries. And so they typically need to swap these batteries from lunch to dinner rush. And if they don't, they typically do try to charge this, like find a place to charge their battery somewhere, right? But workers are also just, worried about their own safety and their family's safety and are looking for alternative solutions, and oftentimes are just met with their landlords banning charging completely. So what is this program that we're trying to bring to you? We received $3 million in NYCERDA funding to place 25 of the approximately 25 battery swapping cabinets around New York City. The primary part of this funding is really just going out to building electrical connection from, the closest maintenance hole to the site location. And you can see here on the image on the right side, this project area really focuses on two big things, which is where most delivery activity is actually happening in New York City, and also where e-bike usage is popular. As you go further out into the outer boroughs, that's where, more deliveries are being taken by moped or by car. So just to show you a little bit, this is data from the Department of Consumer Worker Protection. And this is a general map of where the dark blue areas are where more deliveries are taking place, including, the Upper West Side.
Elaine, we lost you.
Oh, sorry. Can you still hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, great. And yeah, jump in anytime if you can't hear me.
Thank you.
You can also see these white dots overlaid here are actually delivery workers' suggested locations when we conducted the pilot. So we did ask them during that time, where they'd like to see these. But we understand, of course, that, e-bike safety is a very a large problem and one program can't solve it all. So we understand that, education is so important, and we have created a delivery worker mandatory education that everyone should be taking on safe riding practices and fire safety. We also know that critical infrastructure like bike lanes need to be to accompany, this type of design. And of course, kind of at its core, understanding that, these delivery apps themselves are part of the problem where, they are incentivizing workers to ride as fast as possible to make more deliveries. And so right now, DOT is working actively with City Council to hold these apps accountable as well. So what exactly is this technology and what does it look like? You can see these are photos from our pilot program. There's two different versions here. And what workers can use is their mobile phone, and delivery workers basically run off their phones, right? So they would scan a QR code, they would put a depleted battery in and take a fully charged one out. So there's no charging at the station in the sense of no one's waiting there and going to linger there, but they're swapping it out. And then they can go on to their next shift. This approximately takes less than 60 seconds. And so these cabinets, they're charging these batteries, but the users don't have to wait on that charge. They are going to be certified to UL standards. This is a nationally recognized safety standard, including fire safety features like fire containment. For example, if there's a fire inside the cabinet, that will actually be contained by the cabinet. And these cabinets need to go through lots of testing in order to be certified. Of course, there will be weather and theft proof, but really importantly, we want to be proactive with battery health. So once the battery gets placed in, it can the machine will scan that and say, hey, if there's something wrong with that, we can proactively take out bad batteries and put a new one into circulation. The last thing I'll say here is that really this program is designed to be self-sustaining from a financial standpoint. Users will need to pay a membership fee to the selected vendor, which we'll be releasing an RFP later this year on that. And that will help with the operational and maintenance costs. And lastly, the vendors will be responsible for site maintenance and cleanliness, and there will be a fine if they do not comply. Most of the cabinet companies and vendors out there are not the Googles or the Apples of the world, so they just can't constantly get that fee. And so we believe that that will be an effective strategy. So in terms of identifying potential sites, there's a lot of things to consider. We want these near bike lanes and major streets and on wider sidewalks, but we also want to keep clear from, fire hydrants and bus stops. Another important factor is really pedestrian flow, and we know that's of utmost importance for a lot of folks. So we are being guided by our pedestrian mobility plan to make sure that we can have a high volume of pedestrian traffic. So in terms of considerations, just upfront, on congregation, because this interaction really is a quick interaction, we do not believe congregation will become a problem. We actually saw that during the pilot, Cooper Square was one of our most popular sites. And even then, we did not see lots of congregation there. What we saw was actually folks would rather sit under the shade and near benches in the park rather than be at the site that we selected. In terms of clear path, I just talked about this, but really making sure to keep those sidewalks clear. And then on fire safety, we have been communicating with fire department and will continue to work with them throughout this entire process. And then on appearance, we don't want this to necessarily stand out from everything else. We will work with, PDC and make sure that this integrates well into the landscape. So here's a quick map on some of the proposed sites. I want to emphasize, we're not doing all these sites. We're doing around 25 of them. And you might see little hubs of like 5 or 6 grouped together. Those are really meant to be options. We're not necessarily planning to put like 5 or 6 right next to each other. And so just to give you a little sense of how we think about clearances, we want to make sure we keep distance from those fire hydrants, as I said, from every tree pit, from maintaining that clear path and keeping clear of our entrances. And so there's 2 sites in your guys' district, one on Amsterdam and Broadway, and the other on West 94th and Columbus. And, I've been reading a lot of comments. I understand there's a lot of focus on this location. And I also pulled some suggested locations from the public feedback form so far on, where other places, where other sites could go. I've heard West 71st and Broadway in that little plaza area. We've heard, on Columbus Ave between like 96th or 97th, and also along like near the Whole Foods or Home Goods. So we want to take that information and feedback, whatever you guys also have to suggest today as well, and incorporate it into finalizing our sites. In terms of timeline, we are, getting started and making sure that we do our outreach. We aim to finalize and close our portal by the end of July, and finalize our sites by the end of this year. The construction won't actually begin until, early 2027. There's a lot of, design engineering that has to go in this first, and the program will launch in 2028. So with that being said, I just want to emphasize for any community members in the room, if you want to scan this QR code, this is where our feedback portal is, and we'd love to hear from you guys. I'm happy to answer any questions and flip back to those 2 sites to discuss as well. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Elaine. Let's start with the public. Does anyone in the room have any questions or comments or feedback on the location?
I guess I'm a little bit late.
If you want to come to the microphone so she can hear you.
I'm a little bit late to this, so this may have been talked about, but why is the taxpayer being saddled with this instead of the these delivery companies? Well, why are we paying for this?
Elaine, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's a great comment. We've had this comment many times. We do understand that I think the delivery apps have a big role to also play in this. Currently, what we have existing at this moment is this grant that we did win a couple of years ago to help us build out this infrastructure and also kind of recognize that this is an urgent problem that still needs to be solved. But we are looking into other ways to finance this. But right now, this is kind of what we have.
Wait, and where is the 3 million coming from? I don't. What?
State, yeah.
Oh, so it is public money.
It's public
money.
but there's a fee.
Well, there's nobody paying anything yet.
No, but I'm wondering, I'm sorry.
That's, yeah.
First,
that's
yeah. And going along with that, and what kind of studies have been done as to how this is going to be financed? The fee obviously is not going to pay for it.
Yeah, so these vendors, that's a great question. So in terms of actually maintaining this, we are putting out an RFP and we would basically get a vendor on board. These vendors, which are, these technology cabinet companies, are already building these out throughout the city on private lots. So they already have figured out a business model to either rent a private space, put these on those lots, and get folks to be a member as part of their system. So I want to acknowledge that it seems like their business model is working for them right now and is already active. Jersey City also has a couple of these battery swapping cabinets, and we talk with them as well, and they've seemed to say it's pretty successful.
Okay, great. I'll just go online and then we can, anyone online, if you have a question, comment, feedback, if you can just raise your hand and I'll promote you to panelists so you can, speak. Okay, I don't see anyone right now, so we'll just go into the room for board members. Go ahead.
Yeah, the presentation said that these are designed to be self-sustaining with membership fees. First is, who are the members? Is it the individual delivery people, or is it the apps? Who buys the membership?
Yes. So currently the business model is that the members are the users, which would be delivery workers or anyone in the public that would like to utilize this program. So delivery workers may want to pay for this as a way to help alleviate some of that more safety concerns, such as like the fires in your apartments, but also from an economic standpoint, as I kind of mentioned earlier, if they're not like this saves them time. It's only a swap, right? Rather than sitting and waiting for your battery to charge, which people already are doing right now. You actually can swap this out and keep going with your day, make more deliveries, to help yourself make money. And so is like a financial component that folks might utilize this for. One other comment that we received is also that, there's maintenance when you own something, right? So they will not be owning these batteries. They will be given these batteries from the vendor, and that means that alleviates them of that need to maintain it themselves. They can always get a new one if it, runs out of battery, or if they need to, if there's something wonky that happens with it.
So you said that these prospective vendors are already doing this on private lots. So I assume they're charging a membership fee. So how much is that membership fee? Do you know?
So, and for our program, we are still going to definitely negotiate that price to keep it affordable. Right now, what I have heard around is they're mostly charging a couple bucks a day, around 70-ish a month. For someone who uses this every day, that might be worth it for them. Maybe, and we're still thinking about, that financial model for like, the non-daily user of this.
Great.
Thanks so much for the presentation. In terms of public input for the locations, and I think in your original slide, you showed a couple of dots further north in our district. Okay. Yeah, but not at 71st and, are those where they're planning, they're proposed, but not yet confirmed, I guess?
So
Like,
those are,
it looks like 13, 16, 18, maybe 22.
yeah, so the two that I proposed here are 16 and 18. The other ones might, I think, are actually not in your district. It might just look from this map because the bubbles had to be bigger.
Okay, so wait, so 18 is the 71st and Broadway?
Sorry, the 94th and Columbus. And
Okay,
then
so you listed a couple of other prospective ones that.
This one?
No.
There's a few at the end.
At the end, they were on a 71st.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Sorry. These are just from the actual feedback portal. They are not our officially proposed locations. This is what I have heard from residents or people that submitted to our public portal.
So nothing has been decided yet on
Correct.
the first set with the map is not any more of a priority than these, or I guess I'm just trying to figure out the pecking order of which sites you're looking at, and then that goes to my second question, which is, will there be any public opportunities for people? Because I think something I'm going to suggest when we discuss this, but have there been any sort of like public sessions where the community the Upper West Side community or generally can come and weigh in on the locations?
Yeah, so I think this is why we wanted to bring it to the CBs, right? This is maybe our forum for that, including the actual online portal. So we encourage people to submit their suggested locations in that portal or comment on the sites that we've proposed. We have not finalized any sites, right? This is kind of why we want to brief you guys and get the public involved in helping us choose the sites.
And then who makes the decision on the sites? Is it just like a group of DOT people? Is it like broader?
Yeah, so it will be DOT that kind of has that final call, just because a part of it is the actual viability, right? Can we actually do anything here? Sometimes we will get suggested locations, and they're great locations, but they don't meet their clearances and things like that. But we want to hear this feedback, and I've seen a lot of comments on the previous slide, and that is sorry, on the site, and that's a note taken. I understand there's a preschool nearby here, so we are incorporating that type of feedback to make the best decision for these areas.
Okay, and the deadline for that submission of feedback is when? And you said end of July is when you're going to be deciding on the sites?
So
when
end of July is when the portal closes. We will obviously take some time to really deliberate and make sure we make the appropriate decisions.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So the state is giving $125,000 for each of these closets. The city is giving land and the deliveristas are giving monthly fees and the app companies pay nothing? Okay, that sounds like a deal. How come they're so expensive? It's, as I understand it, it's a closet, you stick the old battery in and it recharges and you take out a fresh battery. Is that how it works?
Correct.
Yeah. It just seems like, I don't know, I guess a bathroom costs 4 million. Why shouldn't a closet with an electrical socket cost 125,000? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just respond to that in the case that I guess I want to clarify that we are not procuring any equipment here, so we're not buying the technology. We are allowing vendors to kind of run on DOT property. I think the bulk of the cost, and why I say approximately 25, is really construction cost of building out that electrical capacity. In flux, right? Like a lot of construction projects can get costly very fast. And this was, a grant that we got a couple of years ago. So also accounting for inflation and things like that. But yeah, note taken, and we will hopefully utilize this funding as best we can.
What protection will be that, because presumably the vendor gets the contract and it's a monopoly against for them not ripping off the people using the service?
So in terms of that, we are still deciding on how many vendors we want to use to get on board for this program. There's pros and cons to both, right? If we have one vendor, that might be good in some ways. If we have a couple, that'll add competition, might be better in other ways. So there are still decisions being made, but that's what we're also taking input on. And we want to shape this program that in a way that, of course, helps delivery workers, but also actually makes sense financially, and for the on the vendor side makes sense economically for them as well. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go, okay, Doug, Jamie, and then we have two more, okay, and then we'll have more members from the public.
to the public?
We'll just finish with
You can go to the
the,
public first and then come back to
are
me.
you sure?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
fine with
cool.
that too. Yeah.
Okay, I saw Alan first, go ahead.
I was just curious if you could show the total profile of the sidewalk again, like how much space we're talking about on the sidewalk?
Total profile of the site. Are you talking about these sites or?
Yeah. Is that white mark meant to be the indication of how much space we're talking about?
Yes. So this, I mean, this is not an official construction drawing. This is just like an indication of generally how much space it might take up. Right now, I believe that this actual sidewalk is about 15 feet, around 3 of these like squares, and each of them are approximately like 5 feet each. So it would take out maybe like 5 of that feet, and the actual footprint of these cabinets has not been decided because based on the vendor really. And so the clear path here is probably around like 10 feet plus.
Got it, thank you.
I
And-
saw some online. Okay, go. Sorry, what?
No, I was just saying sometimes the angle makes it look a lot less than it is. So yeah, continue on.
Steve, if you want to go ahead online.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can hear you now.
Has there been any, I'm kind of piggybacking on the comment just made. Has there been any discussion of maybe merging this with some stuff that's already on the sidewalks, like a bus stop or, you know, the signs where you can recharge your phone? Of just so the sidewalks don't get that cluttered, because we also have garbage containers coming to the streets. We have a bunch of stuff. So is
Mhm.
there any way of merging it so less sidewalk is eaten up with obstacles?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think we are very cognizant of limited sidewalk space. Right now, I don't think there's an idea to merge them, but what we do have is like a dig once approach where we are trying to utilize, one thing we're trying to do is actively as we build out all this electrical connection, we want to build out extra capacity for things like, the city bike station here, if it were to be electrified, we could actually build out extra electrical capacity so that they can tap in, don't have to do the entire construction, process over again. But on the actual front that you're talking about, Steve, we are, very thoughtful in terms of like understanding there's limited space and trying to place these as best as we can.
Great, thanks. Ira?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my building, e-bikes are really frowned upon. In fact, they didn't want an e-bike without a battery in the bike room. So this, if the city put charging things, like personally, I used my e-bike before it got stolen to use coffee grounds up a really steep hill. And I can't do that without an e-bike. No possible way. I could do it with a truck. I don't have a truck. I could do it with a car. I don't have a car. So I like the idea of this.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate the comment.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious if the residents of these locations and the community were contacted that this was a proposal. Because I'm a resident, not really of one of these locations, but this is like news to me. And on the other end, for the delivery people, is there a consensus that they really need this? And they want it? I mean, what survey has been done to ask the actual user that's changing out their battery in the street?
Did you hear her question?
Yeah, yes, I did. On the first point, residents weren't contacted directly for this because this is a proposed site, and we were coming to the community board to help disseminate some of this information. If we decide to choose this, then we will definitely be contacting the residents. But we encourage residents of this area to submit their suggestions or their comments in the form. On the second point, yes, we have heard, from both the advocacy groups, from delivery workers themselves during the pilot program that this is something that they would utilize. Many of them are already utilizing this program through the private lots that are built out by some of these technology vendor companies. So we do believe that this will be a program that folks will want to use.
Great, let's get back to committee. Doug?
Okay, well, I, for one, find this program reassuring only because, I'm terrified and about the fires that have occurred in the last few years. So, if there is a way that the delivery workers in particular, and anyone who's using an e-bike with a battery that's safer, that's, I think, good news for us. I guess I'm sort of dovetailing on what has already been said, which is that I assume you've had outreach and communication with Los Deliveristas. The other thing that I think is harder, and I think we all would like to know because then you make $1 billion, is the apps know where their business is. And I assume that what's going to be important in the design of this, notwithstanding proximity to fire hydrants and bus stops, et cetera, is being equidistant to where the business is, right, where the delivery workers gather. So, you know, I just, again, going back to the apps again, I would like them to pay more for it. You know, and this is public information. The company there's a company that purchased Grubhub, Seamless, Relay, Caviar. There's one company, including Wonder. All that information is, you know, they know where all their business is. So I just would love to lean on the apps more for them to pay for some of this and for them to share information that can be mutually beneficial to them. I don't know how we do that.
Great comment. And we, I know the DOT is really actively trying to get some of the delivery app data out of their companies. Harder said than done, apparently. But it's definitely something that we are trying to work on and get out of those companies. But note taken. Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have two comments. One is I appreciate the concept, and I think as we are pivoting from truck delivery to a different system that does involve e-bikes, acknowledging this as a potential program is certainly laudable. My big concern is spaces at a premium, sidewalk clutter is an issue. This image concerns me. I want to keep the bikes off the sidewalk, so let's start by putting the battery swap stations on the street, not the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Obviously, different locations might have different considerations, but I would be,
It's a really good point.
we want to change behavior. And while it takes a minute to swap your battery out, you're either on the sidewalk or not in a safe location. So maybe we want to consider. And the other comment is the idea of revocable consent. I feel like the city is, you know, space is a premium and needs change. What is currently a deliverista hub, businesses may move or site conditions change. So I would like to see some sort of every X amount of years to look at the conditions and make sure we're still serving the needs of the people who are using this program.
Good. I think you were
Elaine?
next. Oh,
Elaine, could you answer or just respond to the idea of putting it in the street rather than on the sidewalk in some cases?
Yes, so we had thought about that originally. One of the concerns is you know, vehicular traffic.
We just lost your audio.
Oh, sorry.
And
Can you hear
I
me?
think she's frozen.
Can you hear me now?
Tough question.
Yeah, it was the idea of putting it on the street.
Okay. Let me know when you can hear me.
Okay,
Yeah.
we got you.
Okay. Yeah, so we thought about that. One of our first questions. Think currently we are trying to provide a little bit more protection from vehicular traffic. That's one of the reasons we don't have them on road beds. And we are also actively working with the fire department on what's the most appropriate. So we have considered that, and we'll take that into kind of the feedback that we're getting.
Okay.
Carrie.
Two comments as well, and picking up on Laura's concern. I think you can see in this picture, one of the issues that would arise is that the proposed charging stations would be right outside of a residential building in people's homes, and that's not an ideal spot for it on 106th Street. On 94th Street, which you are already considering, and 97th Street, which you had said you may consider, we're fortunate to have a surplus of sidewalk in those two locations. And so I'd just highly recommend that you specifically look at those locations, because there is very likely to be a way to leverage those unique sidewalks there for this type of infrastructure. The second comment that I had wanted to make picks up on I think one of the larger concerns that we always hear about in district. E-bike safety is consistently one of the things that the community is concerned about, both feedback that we get and something that we experience as part of our lived experience. If we're allowing vendors to operate on city property, have you considered a condition of monetizing that property that the drivers who are going to be the members that use this are required to take supplemental education about the rules of the road beyond what they may do when they first have to engage with the city? You know, a lot of professions have continuing education requirements. And if we're offering this perk, if we're allowing vendors to monetize the space, it would seem that would be a requirement that would at least help us, help you respond to some of the community opposition and explain to people a direct perk of having this is that we may get drivers who are more willing to respect the existing rules.
Yeah, a great comment. So we do have this new delivery worker required curriculum that DOT launched a couple of months ago. We do intend to make sure that any user, especially a delivery worker of this platform, will have to go through that as well. And that would be something we kind of write into the RFP to make sure that the actual vendor not only encourages it, but maybe integrates it into their app, right, as well. So we're thinking through that.
Wonderful, thank you.
Jamie, I think I saw you earlier.
So thank you very much, Elaine, for the presentation. Very clear and crisp, which is well appreciated. We have a general rule, please don't repeat what's been said before, but sometimes a groundswell of a position is worth something. So I'm going to piggyback on Howard and others who've raised, including members of the public, the issue of the apps. When we talk about e-bike safety and the new culture of delivery, which is no longer truck, but last mile using e-bikes very often, it seems that whatever side of the issue we're on, and often we're not on the same side, but everyone seems to agree that there needs to be app accountability, but we all sort of throw up our hands because we just can't get them to the table. So I noticed in your presentation, you did mention that there is an effort by DOT to work with government, meaning the city council, to try and do something about the delivery apps. I don't know if you want to say or can say more about that, but I certainly would urge you, if not beg you, to please continue to pursue that.
Yes.
Because that is where I think most people feel major frustration with the current system.
Yeah, that totally agree. And I don't have too much to add, but we are when I say actively trying to hold them accountable, it includes things like them having to share their app data with us, and these other requirements that, you know, these delivery app companies need to be doing, because partly, you know, they are the incentivizers for some of the issues that we have. So definitely acknowledged. We have a whole team kind of working on that right now as well. Hope we can give you an update, but that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you, Elaine.
We'll do Jay and then you can close it out. And we have one more member of the public. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask this earlier, because I've been staring at that
Oh, sorry.
photograph, and I wonder if anyone has considered the use of the city bike stations as a location for these charging stations. They would probably take up less than 2 spots based on the photos that we've seen, and it would solve the location problem, since the city bike installations have already gone through that process as to where they're located. They're already in the roadway. I think that would answer a lot of the concerns that have been raised. And the only final issue would be how we can get some money out of Lyft/City Bike. I haven't thought that through yet, but since their creative accounting has been shortchanging the city ever since the program was instituted, it might be a worthwhile exercise.
Yeah, appreciate that comment.
Of course, that would mean fewer city bikes.
Huh?
That would mean fewer city bikes.
Well, I mean, the cabinets that we were shown looked like they're maybe 2 feet wide or,
Mhm.
you know, so if you put them at the edge there, you might lose one slot. And most of these city bike installations have quite a number of bikes and, you know, that
Not-
seems to me.
Never enough.
Well,
You wanna
that
call on Eric?
depends. Some,
Yeah, go ahead.
some people would say there's too much.
Well,
Go ahead,
you're
Eric.
not, they wouldn't be riders.
to put out?
25.
And citywide, no,
No, no.
citywide.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about
Two or
minimum.
three, right?
Yeah.
Two or
so
three.
small.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be against it going in front of a residential building, like, yeah, definitely put it in front of like a chain restaurant. That seems like a better idea. That are participating more in the delivery. So, yeah, that's my only comment. Thank you.
Go ahead, Karen.
So just two questions, Elaine. When the private vendor takes over, who is going to determine the fee? Will that be DOT and any increases? And then the other question is, are all batteries the same? Or is that, you're kind of assuming?
Sorry, I think I've lost connection. Hopefully. Can you hear me?
Replace it.
But the bike
Okay.
has.
Like,
Sorry, I'm back. I don't know if anyone.
did you
I
hear
can
my?
hear you, Elaine.
Yes.
I heard you.
Okay, I heard your question and I will respond to it. In terms of the fee, that will be kind of a negotiation through the RFP process and the agreement with the vendor. So that's still up to be determined. But really DOT wants to keep this affordable as, that is one of our emphases. For the all batteries being the same, sorry, I think I'm frozen again. Let me see if I could.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear. Okay, if you can hear me, that's fine. Feel free to shout out. I can't hear the community board 7, unfortunately, camera. But are all the batteries the same? No, not all batteries are the same. What we've learned through the program is the pilot program is really there are some bikes that a vast majority of delivery workers will use. And for a lot of these vending companies, they provide that type of battery. So the answer is no, not any e-bike will be compatible, but we will make sure that, for this program, a wide range of battery types are. A wide range of e-bike types are that will be compatible. The one thing I will say is the vendor will be providing the battery to the user. So these will all be certified batteries that will be in circulation. And unfortunately, I can't hear. I've lost the audio here.
Elaine, I can
Okay.
hear
Can
you.
you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, no, I was just gonna say that if I'm not mistaken, city bike stations are solar, they're not electrified. And those batteries are swapped out at night with a city bike truck owned by Lyft.
Right.
So I don't know, because part of this is the electrical infrastructure. I like the idea of proximity, it makes sense, but I don't think that,
Any way you slice it, you have to provide charging infrastructure. I was mostly concerned about location.
Okay, we have one last member of the public. Rob, if you want to go ahead.
Sure, thank you. I just had a quick question, Elaine. In terms of the placement that the picture you shared, it's in front of a residential building on a sidewalk.
Mhm.
Is there any responsibility on the building to make sure the sidewalk, when it's up for repair, like my car building, the sidewalk is up for repair. So what's the responsibility of the building to ensure that the sidewalk area is safe? And do
do we reach out to the vendor if there's one of these machines in our sidewalks? How would that process work?
So I can only speak right now to the maintenance and cleanliness side of things. The vendor will be responsible for like making sure like no garbage is around the vicinity, but of course not the entire block or anything like that. But I'm gonna take your question back. I think I understand what you're saying, in terms of just like the relationship between having like a private vendor on a public street.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else to say? Or we can
No.
move on. Okay, the next item is also
Thank you.
DOT. And by the way,
Oh,
thank you, Elaine.
thank
for
you,
the
Elaine.
presentation.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks,
too.
everyone.
And
Bye,
just
Colleen.
remind everyone, please scan the QR code and provide comment on the locations. The next item is also from DOT. It's a presentation on the car share program. Colleen, I think you just mentioned that it would be a quick presentation.
Oh, with regarding the car share, I'm so sorry. My colleague could not make it this evening.
Okay.
And we did send a letter about the locations, and I think we asked the community board to opine on that location.
Do you need a resolution on that?
No, we don't need a resolution on that. That it was
Yeah.
more informational, so we don't need a resolution on that.
Yeah, we shared that letter with the committee members this afternoon, fortunately, but that was 1 West 64th Street, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it in new business, I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in the drive from earlier from last
Oh,
week, I
it was.
think. But okay, the next item, that's good because we went over, so this actually looks great. The next item is the presentation by the Department of Design and Construction. So if anyone from that team is on, if you just want to raise your hand and I'll promote you to panelist. I'm not seeing any raised hands yet.
Did they confirm?
Yeah. Okay, perfect, Maria. Maria, I just promoted you. Maria, are you there?
I'm here.
Perfect, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so my name is Maria Centeno. I'm the Director of Community Outreach and Notification. I'm in the Communications and Policy Division at DDC, Department of Design and Construction. Thank you all this evening for allowing us to present and appreciate the Community Board hosting this meeting for us tonight.
Great, thank you for being here. I know you had a presentation. Will you share
Yeah,
yours?
it was sent earlier. I'm not able to put it on screen, but it was sent earlier by Marlene, so that it can be
Okay.
placed on screen.
Yeah, I sent you the Zoom link, but I'll have to join and share it in that case.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm not the tech person. Thank God.
Give me a moment here. Excuse me. Oh, sorry about that. So while you put that up on screen, I just wanted to introduce the project. We're here to present tonight the 36-inch trunk water main in Broadway. It's between 92nd Street and 97th Street between Broadway and Columbus. Some of the agenda items that we are going to share tonight in the presentation will be the project schedule, project goals, project limits. We're also going to provide a construction overview of the project and just discuss some typical maintenance and protection of traffic, how we're going to coexist with the project as well as the community still being able to, go to and from. And in addition to that, we are also going to talk a little bit about some DEP lead service line replacement program protocols. You can go to the next slide. And we're also going to talk a little bit about your feedback on the usage of decorative mesh fabric to cover construction sites, storage areas. Again, we have that as an option. And again, some community outreach. So I don't know if I see the presentation on screen.
Yeah, I think it went away.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. So but I did see it there for like a quick second. So yep, those are the agenda items that I just finished reviewing with you. So let's begin with the project schedule. So we have the mass mailing one that was completed earlier in 2022. We've had alignment meetings with utilities as part of the design coordination process. In March of 2022, we did another mass mailing back in August of 2022. And then we did a third mass mailing just recently, right? 2026. And then we are planning an alignment meeting, again, another one with utilities. So we can coordinate relocation or upgrades while we're working in the street and streets open. And this is happening in July of 2026, which is next month. And then we are hoping to finalize the design completion later this year in the fall, and expected construction duration fall of 2027. And again, ending in fall of 2030. So it's a 3-year estimated project. So let's talk a little bit about, the project goals in mind for this project. So in essence, this is a lot of the work that we're doing on this project is on behalf of the Department of Environmental Protection. So most of the investment is in the ground. So we're going to be upgrading 36-inch steel trunk water mains. We're also going to have 48-inch ductile iron water mains as well. And these are huge, 36, 48, they're like the size of vehicles, okay? They're huge. And we're also going to install about 14 fire hydrants. We're also going to have some combined sewers, not too much, about 300 linear feet. And then again, we are coordinating with utilities, as I mentioned. So, where utility work will take place, they may have to relocate, get some of their assets out of the way so that we will have room and access to reach the water main, right? Because that's usually the top layer of all the utility. And in addition to, any of that related work, we will restore sidewalks and curbs as needed. In addition to that, we will have street lighting as well as traffic signals. We're also installing these new audible pedestrian signals, which are great for safety and, for folks who really need those upgrades. In addition to the ADA compliant pedestrian ramps, which we're doing all over the city in every borough. So if you want to go to the next slide. So this is the project limits. We're talking about approximately 6 blocks, right? So we're looking at Broadway between 92nd and 97th Streets. And then on 97th Street, we're going to continue between obviously Broadway and Columbus Avenue. So it's like an L-shaped 6 blocks. If you can go to the next slide, we have just a little more detail about the construction overview. So an important aspect is that we are not changing the roadway alignment whatsoever. The street markings that are there today will be there after the project, so we're replacing those in kind. So street markings will happen obviously last. Curbs and sidewalks, again, where we touch, we will restore and replace in kind. And again, we talked about the water mains and basically not only are we enhancing the existing water delivery system, but the quality of the water itself. Another interesting aspect is the erosion and settlement controls that are going to be utilized to prevent deposits and pollution from entering into the stormwater system within the drainage, and an area as well, adjacent to the site. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you, appreciate it. Again, project construction overview. I think we talked about coordinating. Oh, yes, so MTA. We do have some work in proximity to MTA. So there will be ongoing coordination. We have to address any interferences between the subway tunnel systems and any proposed utility work as part of this project. So that does take some time. We also are working with the Parks Department for any tree mitigation. So, we do a survey. There might be some trees that may interfere. There may be some conditions of trees. So, tree pruning is definitely something that is a matter of practice because we do have a lot of, construction, tall vehicle construction, and we don't want to harm the trees. So things of that nature, which are, pretty routine on a lot of our DDC projects. And I think we talked about the pet ramps, right? Which will enhance pedestrian traffic flow, accessibility, safety. Trench restoration, right? We're not necessarily, well, it says here we're doing curb to curb street resurfacing as well. So I guess, if we're doing various locations within the block, it just makes sense to do curb to curb. But in some cases, it'll just be trench restoration. And then we talked about the street lighting. And, we have a couple of photographs here, ped ramps, and of course, the audible signals that we're installing throughout the city. You can go to the next. Okay, so we mentioned typical maintenance and protection of traffic. So this is something that we look at early in the design process. It's in the design build. We have to let the contractor know what is expected of them as far as maintaining pedestrian and vehicular traffic and trying to remove these conflicts as best as possible, allowing the contractor enough space to perform the work. So as you see, there's barrels and these little circular dots that you see, and they taper to and from the construction site. So, again, we show two-way as well as maintaining one-way traffic. I think that's another important aspect to bring. So we, if it's two-way lanes, it will be two ways. If it's one way, we will definitely maintain traffic. Okay. I'm sorry, next. Okay, so again, another part of this, a component of this project. So DEP has a program, the lead service line replacement program. I'm sure they've been here and they've talked about it, and there was a lot of press on it. And they've piloted this for many years. And so we are incorporating this in DDC projects where there may be suspected or known lead pipes, and usually it's buildings that have been around since I think before 1963 or something like that. So right here in this project limit area, I think we only have 3 locations that we're looking at right now as far as 3 locations, the 3 addresses really. And the benefits of this is that the city is replacing these lead lines now free at no cost to the property owner. Usually when we do work, we stop at the sidewalk. This would go all the way up to the connection to the home where the lead line, the water enters into the home. And so if a person was to decide to opt out, they're really losing out on, upwards of $10,000 or more. Yeah, so this is highly recommended. And hopefully we will get consent form signed. So there is a process. You can go to the next page. This one just highlights the DEP website. So if you did want to know any more information on their program, they have a lot of great information on their website. But basically, you have to qualify in order to participate in this program. And again, we're only targeting areas that qualify and that have been identified. And there is a whole process where we send out letters. There's a consent form. There's an inspection to make sure that we can access and do the work. And if not, if they don't want the work, then there's an opt-out form as well. But we definitely do try various times. We make many attempts to reach out to the property owner. All right, that's about all I'm going to say on that. But those are the 3 locations highlighted on the lower right corner of that slide. If you wanted to know the specific locations that we're looking at for the lead line program. Next slide, please. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the community impacts and mitigation. So, DDC has been doing this work for quite some time. So we are very much aware of some of the expectations that the community has and that we uphold the contractors to. So, there's DEP noise code regulations, storage areas that have to be kept clean. Housekeeping is very important as well as safe, right? Traffic patterns, or we talked a little bit about maintenance of traffic and pedestrian traffic. So we will maintain access at all times to pedestrians on the sidewalks, in their egress into their homes or stores, whatever entry points there are along sidewalks. And then we may have some temporary street closures. Sometimes it's intermittent. But we do have flaggers and other mechanisms in place to limit that access as and to return it and restore it as quickly as possible. And again, we coordinate with the community with regards to any driveway or loading dock zones that need to be maintained as well. We work with businesses who need to make deliveries. If we're digging a trench right in front of that business, it's, we're going to say side delivery, side street delivery. But where possible, where we can accommodate, we do. We have a team on site who will be available to work with different members of the community. And then, trash and garbage pickup, so, it's a residential neighborhood. We're still, sanitation still has to pick up do their trash collection. And so that's very important. And sometimes we do work in very narrow streets. Sometimes there's only like 10 or 15 feet. And we do recognize that. So that is also coordinated on an as needed basis as well. Let's keep going. Next slide, please. What's important here is that we're doing a lot of water main work. So as I said, we have a team on the ground who provides oversight to the contractor. So the contractor is just not going to be allowed to do whatever he wants. We have to provide advance notification. We do a 72-hour advance notification, and then we do a 24-hour confirmation or cancellation of any shutdowns. And we also include that for any other impactful work that may happen. So sort of like no parking, right? So if we have to take over an area to do some work in the ground, it would apply to no parking as well. So we follow the same protocol. But what's most important is that, not only is there 72, but on Friday afternoons, we also share a weekly look ahead. So we share the work that's happening a week before. And then we also have a quarterly project update. So we actually even share in advance the work that's expected where on a quarterly basis. So we try to give as much advance notice as possible. And most importantly, like I said, we will accommodate, try to work with businesses as best as possible. But when we have to shut down the water, unless they're, let's say, a medical facility of some sort, it's really hard to provide accommodation for every business on the block when we're doing shutdowns. So advance notification is probably the best thing for us to provide so that they can also plan around our schedule as well. And at least they're planned shutdowns, and again, this is preventive work, right? So we're doing water main replacements because they need to be done. A lot of the infrastructure in the ground is very old. And we want to prevent future water main, breakdown, right? So when the water mains break, it's havoc, there's flooding everywhere, and it's not controlled, right? We don't know when facilities will be up and running again. So at least this way, we have a much more controlled environment when we're shutting down the water. And again, any individuals with accommodations, again, our liaison is on board to work with different individuals within the community that may be uniquely impacted. Next slide, please.
It's not, I think. Okay. Can you see the slide?
Yes. So other impacts, obviously, our storage and staging area can be an eyesore. And housekeeping is important. I mean, that's where the contractor will put stuff that he didn't use there at the end of the shift. And also as material is arriving on site to be used, they will use the storage sites. So it's kind of an in and out, and it's usually there temporarily, but we do have maybe some more permanent looking storage areas in different areas. Maybe perhaps we could share that in advance, what areas the contractor is going to look at. And, you can possibly weigh in. Normally, we try to avoid, the most impactful sites. We try to put them on side streets. We don't want to put them in front of people's home. We don't want to try to block businesses. Working in the city, it's really difficult to find the most perfect spot for, but if it's maybe across the street from a park, again, not ideal, but at least it's not blocking a business or it's not blocking a home. So we do try to look at all of those different aspects when looking at those locations. Roading control, again, a very typical and routine process within our contracts. So we bait even, when we have access to the sewers. So we bait even where there isn't access normally. And we start, early. We bait periodically during construction. And again, you let us know, if you feel like there needs to be more attention on that, we can adjust as needed. And then again, public transportation, very important. People have to get to school, folks have to get to work. We will coordinate with MTA. We don't anticipate any bus disruptions, but if we do, we have to give them like 6 weeks notice. They let us know. They decide whether they're going to discontinue the bus or not. And we coordinate a lot of that language and notification with MTA. But we have our liaison on board as an additional source of information and advanced notification if and when we may need to discontinue or reroute busing service in the area. I talked about decorative mesh. So this is an option. It's built into the contract. We have it available. Some communities don't want this. They rather have the visibility. They want to know what's going on inside. Some communities are like, I don't want to see it. That's great. Let's do it. So, that kind of feedback, that level of feedback would be very helpful for us. But it is available if that is something that the community desires. Next. And community outreach, I think I mentioned that we do have a team on the ground, specifically our community construction liaison will be dedicated to this one project in your area. During construction, they will have many different tools in the toolbox as far as communication. We have a project information card, advisories, weekly look ahead. I mentioned that, project updates. All of this has project contact information. And so they're available and you will see them, on and off on site as needed. Next. Yeah, and they're available to attend district service cabinet meetings to give periodic updates to the community board. And they're here basically to, be proactive in their outreach, get to know, those pinch points, those sensitive areas within the community, try to coordinate in advance as best as possible. But community feedback is always appreciated. So they're your first point of contact in maintaining project communication and continuing that throughout the duration of the project. And any questions? I'm sure we have some team members from DDC and our design group here who can also assist in the Q&A. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I think we're gonna start with the public, for anybody in the room from the public have questions, comments?
Anyone online, members of the public, if you have a question, if you want to raise your hand and I'll promote you so you can talk. While we wait for those
Yeah.
hands, maybe we go
Yeah.
to the
So
committee members.
Andrew, did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. Couple quick connected questions. So for water shutdowns, you'd give at least 72 hours notice to the affected residents and businesses. Is that correct?
Yes, 72-hour. We send out an advisory and we also provide a 24-hour either confirmation or cancellation. We have to coordinate with DEP, make sure everything is going well. And we hate canceling, but that can happen sometimes. And I also mentioned in addition to that we have a project update where we give you a quarterly look ahead on anticipated work. as well as a weekly bulletin look ahead on a Friday to highlight work that's happening the coming week, as in addition to any advisories.
And MTA for buses gets 6 weeks notice?
So we start coordinating with MTA. They like 6 weeks, I think they've worked with 2 weeks, but they like 6 weeks. And they usually, if we're going to impact, they will decide whether we need to discontinue a bus stop or reroute. They normally take lead on that. And if that changes for whatever reason, our liaison, in addition to MTA, but our liaison will also issue advisories. And I myself have told our consultants, listen, the day of, you have to be standing right there at that bus stop to let folks know, because even with, papering the entire bus shelter, folks just don't pay attention, and you'll have someone standing there thinking the bus is coming. So we do take that very seriously. It has happened. It's something that we do.
Thank you. So my question actually business related, so just kind of the 72 hours versus the 6 weeks. And do you have notice of exactly where you're going to be doing the work? I'll just get to the point, which is I've seen it over and over again over the years where there are water shutdowns. They're supposed to be 72 hours. They're not 72 hours. Certain businesses can deal with that, but for a restaurant, for example, that has reservations, people are looking forward to this. People book parties for special occasions, and when businesses like restaurants that need water get it even 72 hours in advance, there's incredible scrambling. It's not just impacting the restaurants and the jobs, and it's also impacting, the public. So I would just urge giving much more advanced notice than 72 hours, and then also working with the businesses, because I know you put it in the presentation, but very often the hours of water shut down, they give you an 8-hour window, a 12-hour window, and it ends up being, 2 hours and not affecting the business. And they've changed everything, or then it gets canceled, which you referenced. So I think much more than 72 hours would be very helpful, especially if you're giving them.
Yeah, it's helpful for us as well. So our liaison, even before the advisories happen, they're supposed to be out there door to door, talking to all of these different businesses. So letting them know, like, hey, in 2 weeks, we're planning on coming to your block, and we're probably going to do some shutdowns. We'll have, better information as we get closer. You'll have an advisory. So we do give a lot of these businesses a heads up, even a month in advance, when we know we're coming. So we do try our best. I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen where there's just a 24-hour and there might be some last minute scrambling. Those are really more of a, let's say we scheduled it and DEP is the one who has to physically turn off the valve at the street. And then we'll encounter that the valve, there's something wrong with the valve. We can't, I don't know, they can't turn it, whatever. It's old. Then they may go to the next one, right? And we might have given them a heads up. And so that's where the scrambling may happen, right? Where we have to go to the next one, and that's not something that we might have given, so we do try to avoid that. So we do test shutdowns as well, right? So we can try to avoid those last minute surprises. So test shutdowns are also very helpful. And again, we a part of the liaison going door to door is we also have restaurants, right? We have those dine-in situations in the street. And sometimes we have to coordinate with DOT and the business owner. And we try to work with folks. We're not trying to put anyone out of business, but at the same time, this work that we do is important. So we try to work as best as we can. It's explored.
Telling the outdoor dining team at DOT now, because I will tell you that there's many restaurants that.
Yes, we know. We're aware.
And
we're
then
aware, and
them
we've done
up, and then just told that they have to remove them now for the World Cup. So letting places that are in the licensing process know that they may not want to set up their outdoor dining, because a week after they'll get a notice from the city saying they have to remove them. So that kind of coordination is very helpful and good not to be overlooked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, well, Andrew, express some concerns that I did too, as co-chair of the Business Consumer Issues Committee. I think we're gonna get an earful. So I am very concerned about the amount of notice. And by the way, it's not just restaurants, as you know. If it's a nail salon or hair salon, water is essential. They're out of business without water. And anything that
Absolutely.
requires heat washing, et cetera. So, well, look, for those of us who are old enough to remember, Columbus Avenue, many years ago, which went through a water main change, actually put out the businesses for many years, and Columbus Avenue did not really regain its prominence for years after. But obviously, this is a different scale, and I recognize this is very important work, and it's really great that it's getting done. It's not, so besides the water service, it's also line of sight and the access, the accessibility to the businesses. So I'm really concerned about visibility, accessibility. And we already mentioned outdoor dining, the roadway cafes, the sidewalk cafes. On the decorative mesh, and obviously this is case by case, but is there a way to, if you're blocking the visibility of a business, to allow the area that would be mesh to brand themselves or have a sign that says that behind this mesh or blocking the line of sight happens to be, this restaurant or this store?
Well, we'd rather not. We'd rather not block the line of sight. I mean, again, it's an option. It's not something we have to do. So we can leave it in a way where, we can maintain as much visibility as possible. I have to kind of take it back. I mean, we try to avoid branding on our fencing, but we have put up signage to promote that, there are businesses on this block, and we'll put we've put up a sign with a list of the different businesses that are on the block. So we'll just do like just a very generic type of thing. And we can talk a little bit more about that. But we have done that where we've tried to promote businesses to let, folks know that on this block, we have all these businesses, right? If we're doing a lot of trench work, and even the construction itself is a little intimidating for folks, and perhaps they may decide not to even just go on the block, and we understand that. So even with decorative or not, or mesh or not, it can be an interference. We understand that. So we have done that. We have actually put signage with promoting specific businesses on the block, and again, we can talk a little bit more about what that would look like.
Thank you. The analogy I'm making is that when there's scaffolding in front of a building, usually there's.
Oh, yeah, that's not us. Yeah, I mean, if anything, the scaffolding.
That's above ground, this is below.
That messes us up too. Yeah, we don't like scaffolding either.
Not to create any more trouble, but you had put the map up, and I think some of us can quickly assess which businesses and restaurants are on that map. If you're able to just put it up real quickly, or we can review it later. But I saw it in the 90s on Broadway, and I'm just trying to go by memory to think about which businesses are there, which restaurants have cafes, roadway, sidewalk, et cetera. If it's easy, if not, we can review it later. Or we can review it at our BCI.
That offline.
It's all the way, yeah, it's in the front.
It was just a short map that showed.
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, that's it.
yeah, there it is. That's it. Okay, so I'll take a quick picture and we can review that at BCI tomorrow.
It's on the Google Drive.
And on the Google Drive.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And this presentation, we can make this available. We're gonna put it up on our website, so anyone who wants access to this presentation, we can also send a copy. Yeah, but it's we can share it out.
I just had one quick question. Will there be any shut-offs at locations beyond the blocks that are in the project? Or will they all be contained in that L?
Well, I can't answer that 100%, but yes, I mean, everything that's shaded is the actual project work area. The contractor may decide to do some staging, maybe on the opposite side, and he's working on the other end. He doesn't want to block himself either, right? So I think sometimes they do look at some side streets, but again, that gets coordinated in conjunction with DOT. And again, if there are any suggestions from the community as to, places to avoid, we can certainly share that. I mean, we're far from the contractor being on board, obviously, that we're talking 2027, and we'll be back at the community board when we're ready to do pre-construction, and we have a contractor on board. I know we're talking a little prematurely here, but yes, I mean, if there are any locations that may need to be avoided, if you would like to share that now, that's fine, or we can revisit that in 2027.
That sounds like staging but I'm
Yeah.
talking specifically about shut-offs beyond the project streets.
Oh, you said shuttles?
Shut off.
Shutting off.
Oh,
the-
shut-offs. Oh, shut-offs. So, again, we do test shutdowns to, try to avoid going outside of our project limits. Really, the shutdowns should be within our project limits. So as far as I know, that is the plan. But as I mentioned before, sometimes a valve won't hold, and we may have to go out just one block outside of the next intersection in order to do the work that we need to do. So, there is always that possibility, but it's not something that we would do. We're not planning on doing that.
Jamie.
Okay, my question is about the rats. So, it says here in the presentation, Maria, though, you did mention the rats, but it says here that a rodent survey will be performed prior to construction, and that rodent control stations will be installed by a professional rodent control contractor, which leads me to believe that the rats are gonna be a problem. So can you share with us your experience with the rodent consequences? Look, I know that project has to happen. Not doing the project is not an option, obviously, but what can we expect? You bring up rats, and everybody gets rambunctious. What can we expect with regard to rodent population?
Okay, well, the rodents were already there, right? I mean, we all know that Manhattan is ground zero for rodents. And we are having that line item in our contract is just us being proactive and in anticipation that when we do any excavation, especially for sewer work is much deeper in the ground. We're going to start disturbing the ground. That means that, rodents may, start becoming a bit more active in areas that, ordinarily you wouldn't see. So before we start the work, we have an independent contractor who surveys the area. They put out baits in different project locations. And then we have an activity report. So we monitor to see, where there's more activity, that's where we're putting out more baits. And we can adjust. So if we're doing it monthly, if we need to do it, every 2 weeks, or we can adjust as needed. But that is something that we do as a matter of practice because we know that excavation will disturb the ground and may disturb rodents that are already there. So that's just something that we do as a, try to be as preventative as possible.
Will you coordinate with the rat czar?
If we have to, we have a lot of these, this line item in a lot of our contracts. So we're pretty okay with that. Well, I think what we only really go back to the DOH on extreme conditions, under extreme conditions. Yeah. Because when we invite them, then they start to look at the entire community. And then, they feel like everyone needs to do their part, not just the DDC project. And then they start to look at other, like the business owners. They start to look at their practices. So I don't think we want to involve DOH necessarily unless we have to.
Got it. Thank you. That's very thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I just want to remind the public, if you have any questions, raise your hand and I'll promote you. Okay, Andrew.
Just in full transparency, because I'm working on this issue, there was a city council hearing yesterday on intro 799, which was for roadway construction, small business support fund, sponsored by Councilmember Salam. It would provide grants and low interest loans to small businesses that are affected by city construction. The Department of Small Business Services and the Department of Buildings were there testifying. I don't believe your agency was. Perhaps they submitted testimony, but that would seem like a great thing for your agency and the administration to support, especially with the acknowledgement that this could affect small businesses in the neighborhood.
A little lobbying.
No, bringing attention to
Yes,
something.
yes. Anybody else? Okay, I had a couple of questions, Maria. This seems to me that when you do stuff like this, like you're talking about, you're gonna put in curb cuts that are ADA compliant and such. So it seems like it's an opportunity to construct things like neck downs and bulb outs, which shorten the crossing distances for pedestrians and slow turns by drivers. Are you planning anything like that in consultation with G?
So this is really strictly a DEP project. There really isn't any DOT funding in this project. You know, as you see, it's really water mains. And, you know, the trunk water mains, steel pipe water mains. We're having the duct iron water mains as well, right? We're doing some combined sewers. We're doing catch basins, right? We're doing some trench restoration, you know, curbs and sidewalks, depending on, you know, whatever the utilities disturb along the way. The only DOT components really is the street lighting and the corners with the ped ramps. That's literally it for DOT work on this project. Normally, you see curb extensions for like a lot of the DOT safety projects. So this is not necessarily a DOT safety project. It's really more in conjunction with, you know, we're working in these project limits, and DOT did see an opportunity for us to include the pedestrian ramps because they do have a very aggressive program. We're trying to replace every single ped ramp in existence in New York City. So that's a lot of ground to cover. So whenever there's a project where they can incorporate that and, you know, play catch up, that's what they're going to do, right? And again, the street lighting, I think, is something that was also very necessary. But those are the only two DOT components, elements that are, you know, as part of this project.
Okay,
It's not,
well,
it's,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is more of a DEP focused project, more so than anything.
Okay, well, it just seems like a lost opportunity, but, and it will just be like, let's say on Broadway, would it be just one block at a time or a half a block? And then you'd cover it up and go to the next section?
Well, I think we have construction here. I mean, and we also have design. So design is hearing all of what you're saying as far as like the bump outs and things like that. I'm not going to say we're not doing them. But, you know, again, DEP is the sponsor agency for this project primarily. But that is something we could take back to DOT. I'm not going to say no. But again, I'm just working under the assumption that this is definitely more of a DEP focused project. With regards to phasing or how the contractor is going to work. We don't know necessarily that plan until the contractor's on board. And then they kind of have their means and methods as to when they want to work. Also, as I mentioned before, we're coordinating with DOT, OCMC with regards to the traffic maintenance of protection. Remember, we talked about that and how we're going to maintain that. So that's something that we do early on with DOT. So, you know, they do have their stipulations that the contractor does have to abide by. I don't have that information in front of me unless someone from our team may have that information. And again, I don't even know if that's finalized at this point. We're still in the design phase. And probably some of those details are still being worked out. But we can always come back with those details later if you'd like.
Okay, and the 14 fire hydrants, these are new fire hydrants? Like they're in addition to what we already have?
Again, I don't have the specifics on the 14. Some of them are replacements and some of them can be new. I don't have those details, but again, we can come back and provide those details for you. That's a good question. We should have sorted that out before getting here today.
And you'll have information on how people can contact the community construction liaison or.
Absolutely, absolutely. So once we're done with design, and then we have like a 6 to 9 month procurement, right? So that's why you see such a long gap between the final design date, completion date and actual construction, right? There's a long gap there. So once we're in that pre-construction phase and we have a contractor on board and we're gonna get ready to start the project, we'll be back at the community board, and our presentation will be more focused on, the construction aspects of the project, and we'll be able to share a lot more of that kind of information then.
And you think that'll be 2027, next year?
Yeah, but I mean, if we know some of the information before then, I guess we could share that. But again, we don't want to speak for the contractor. Means and method is his, that's something, they have to tell us how they're planning on performing the work, right?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Anybody else?
We have one member of the public. Is the committee done? Okay,
We
cool.
have.
Okay, I'll do Michelle first. She's been waiting. Michelle, if you're unmuted online. Do you want to unmute yourself? Okay, we'll go with that. Okay.
This is James from Lang, and I'm the next one. Michelle is with me, so I think she was raising her hand just to be a panelist.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
We're very close.
Okay, sorry about that.
I just wanted to have you repeat the project number because it is a lost opportunity. And I want to complain to DOT about it.
Well, you don't have to complain. I mean, if the board wants to send us an email, letting us know that they are interested in seeing some bump outs, right? Some sidewalk extensions. You can send it to DOT, you can copy, Marlene, or we can give you a couple of contact people from our design team as well. And we can take that message back just as much, just as well. But I mean, we're not saying no, we're just saying that right now we're sharing, this is what the scope of work is. We have very specific projects sometimes where you won't see a lot of the work that you see on other DDC projects where it's a combined DEP and DOT project. There's a good balance there. This project is more along the DEP side of things. So a lot of the work is in the ground. Most
I have
definitely.
heard repeatedly from DOT that they only do certain things when the streets get ripped up. They have a big pilot for raised crosswalks. This is a great opportunity to do that.
Oh, no, we're not disagreeing. We can take that back, to our team. And, but again, if you would like to write an email to DOT and copy DDC, or you want to send it to us and copy DOT, that's entirely up to you. We're here to hear you out, and if you have feedback and suggestions, we just, we're following the CPI, right? The capital project improvement limits the scope of work for the project.
So if we were gonna write a letter, I'm not asking you, Maria, I'm talking to the committee. I think we would need a sense of the committee that you support or in support of something like this. I don't think we need a resolution, but.
Yeah,
is
it
this-
can be a condition. It can be a condition, you're in support of the project, but you would like, DOT to consider.
I'm asking the
bump
members,
outs.
I'm asking the committee members right now.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My apology.
So is this something we generally support or do we?
I would generally support it, but you mentioned a few things. I would know the bump outs. What are we saying specifically? What are we?
Well, we're not asking for any specific location, but we're saying that where DOT thinks it's advisable for safety, to increase safety, to put a bump out to shorten crossing distances and slow turning cars. That would be, and maybe consider raised crosswalks, which is another.
Haven't we asked DOT in general terms to do that already?
But this is
Where they
sorry.
We're talking about in
Where they
relation,
think it's necessary.
well, we're talking about in relation to this specific project.
Right.
I have no issue.
In letter form.
in letter, in email or letter, yeah,
Okay with it.
Yes.
okay. Okay,
Great.
so, what's that?
Abstain.
Abstain,
Okay.
okay.
Okay,
If you're-
is that it on the committee? We can move on?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Maria.
Yeah, thank you
Well,
so
Thank you.
much.
Maria, thank
We
you.
will, we'll see you.
Thank you.
A year or
Yeah.
so.
Great. Okay, the next item, James is here and Michelle is here. So the next item is a revocable request from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Revocable consent, sorry.
Hi, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. I can present the drawings if that makes it easier.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure thing. Just more of a Teams person, but I will. Can everyone see?
There it is.
There it is. Yep.
Great. Okay, I have my camera on, but it's not working. So my name is James Harley. I am an associate with Langen Engineers. It's a civil engineering structural geotechnical firm in New York City. My colleague, Michelle Fong, she's a landscape architect with Langen. And today we just want to walk through a revocable consent application for 15 new planters for the Mormon Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, located on Columbus Avenue between West 65th and West 66th Street. Pardon me. The revocable consent is a DOT permit for a private item, such as like a bollard, what you might typically see in the public right of way. So for this application, it's for 15 new planters to replace the existing planters that are out there. Currently, this application will also be for the electrical outlet sockets that are installed in the tree pits that allows the lights to be installed on the trees, the Parks Department trees, as well as the conduit that connects, the 1-inch conduit that connects those outlets back to the building. So I can zoom in here a little bit just to give you an example. These are the existing bowl planters that are currently around the building. There are 18 of them that are currently in existence. They're old. They were installed in 1998 under an approved DOT revocable consent. They're banged up. They're bulky. To date, since then, DOT has revised the standardized, that's a better word to use, standardized the size of the sidewalk planters that they would prefer owners use when going for revocable consent for planters. So just the plans that have been submitted. Very quickly, this is the existing, the sidewalk frontages on 66th, Columbus, and 65th. The planters are scattered, spread out amongst the trees, existing bike racks, light poles, pedestrian ramps, all spaced individually apart. Pardon me. This would be the new layout for the proposed planters. I'll get more into the plantings and plantings type shortly. Again, just replacing the bulb planters, which are old, falling apart, for the new DOT standard planters, spaced out on all frontages, making sure not to block the existing curb cut and driveway that exists on 66th Street, all along up what you see here on Columbus Avenue. And again, filling in the space between the tree pits on 65th Street. This is a profile view. Some of the things that DOT has asked to show, we're replacing one of the bike racks with one of the new DOT standard bike racks. This is just a profile section of what it will look like in conjunction with the tree pits. A good elevation view showing the height that the plant will achieve in relation to the Parks Department street trees. Hope I'm not zooming too fast for anyone. This is in conjunction with the renovation work that is ongoing for the church. It's currently covered in scaffolding if you've walked by recently. Part of that work is also redoing the curb and sidewalk, full builder's pavement plan around, including the update of the pedestrian ramps at the corners as well. If I can go through the landscape plan. So this is where I'll turn it over to my colleague, Michelle. Oh, apologies. One item I missed. This is the electrical socket. You'll see that around the city, but it does require revocable consent. from DOT for them to stay there. They are all currently installed. This is just the city getting all the permitting in line for these electrical conduits and the electrical sockets, outlets. So Michelle, I'll turn it over to you. If you want to walk them through the planters, I can go right to the palette if you like.
Sure. Thanks, James. You could stay on this sheet for now. That'd be great. Hopefully everyone can hear me. So as
Yep.
James mentioned, we have 15 total new planters proposed within the right of way. 2 of those planters are along West 65th Street, 4 of them along West 66th, and 9 along Columbus Avenue. So all of the planters are located and spaced in accordance with DOT's permanent planter guidelines, as well as to create a consistent and more attractive streetscape edge. We're maintaining all required setbacks and clearances from any existing and proposed site features, and then also keeping pedestrian paths clear to ensure accessibility and safety. So regarding the planters themselves, we're proposing custom fabricated box planters, approximately 4 foot length by 4 width by 4 foot height. You can see the image there at the bottom right. And these are custom fabricated and will be designed to meet DOT's planter guidelines, again, for the minimum soil volume requirements, durability, and any appearance guidelines. So that photo is just a visual representation of the intended style, finish, and color of the planter. And regarding the plant palette for these planters, so all of the planters will be the same size. We're providing 2 coordinated planting schemes delineated as planter type B1 and planter type B2. So in B1, we are proposing the New Gen Independence Boxwood, which will be paired with the Plum Royal Coral Bells. And planting scheme B2 will have the Castle Wall Holly, which will be paired with the common periwinkle. So each of these planting schemes consists of 1 evergreen shrub species, which will ensure year-round visual presence. And that will be paired with a low-growing flowering plant to provide structure and seasonal interest through color and texture. So all of these selected plant species are well suited for urban environments. They're salt tolerant, drought tolerant once established, and they're also tolerant of the sun and shade conditions based on their proposed locations around the site. So I think that's it for me, James.
Yes, no, thank you, Michelle. And that's actually it for me too. So if there are any questions, again, these plans have been submitted for your review. We can send along the palette that was not sent if that'll help. But I guess at this point, we'll turn it over to questions.
Oh, yeah. Do you need a resolution from us?
I believe we do in order to move
Okay.
this forward.
Yeah, okay, sounds
Can
good.
I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I know this is right around the site of the construction that's going on with ABC. I just want to be clear, have you vetted this? I mean, like, all of the tree plantings are gonna be, I guess, on the south side of the development, right, of the construction? So do you
No,
anticipate is right?
Yeah, the north is up here on 66th Street. This is where the ABC construction
Right,
is.
but it's
Right.
the south part of the ABC, like it's the south side of the development, right? So there's a lot of
Yes.
construction going on 66th Street right now.
Correct.
On that, yeah. Have you, like, I guess I'm just wondering how that's gonna work with all the construction that's going on, that's all.
Sure. So, I mean, as part of parks regulations, the trees, the larger trees themselves, not in the planters, will have permanent tree protection, any work within 50 feet. And the ABC ownership, once the sidewalk work, which is scheduled to take place, by the way, for the church this summer, once that's done, there will have to be tree protection, the wood planks you see boxing out the trees. The planters themselves can be relocated, shifted a little bit further and bounded on a temporary basis, but the aim is because the traffic will still be open on West 66th Street, that the planters shouldn't really be in any danger. But say the MPT or the construction fence have to get pushed out to the south a little bit further, the planters can be shifted back closer to the building line, or temporarily put back inside until there is probably. But if I showed you a picture, which I have on my other screen, let me know if you could see this.
Got it.
Yeah, there's an entranceway in here where they can bring the planters inside and store them inside on a temporary basis until the construction is back, at which time the planters will be restored to these 4 approved locations.
All right, thank you.
You've got it.
Oh, just 2 quick questions. One, will this increase the number of planters from what was there before?
No, there currently are 18. Originally in 1998, I have the original drawing, which forget it's a little bit old. 1990 is not old, but it was a hand-drawn drawing where there were 14 planters originally, and then in 2005 an additional 4 were requested and added and approved by DOT. So we're actually reducing it from 18 to 15. But another reason for that is there is more street furniture out there now. So like there was a Muni meter, but there's bike racks and other items that were installed by DOT. So there are clearances we have to keep so that pedestrians can cross through, the same way they would cross through bollards with a 4-foot clear. So we have to maintain that. So the number of planters did have to reduce.
So the greenery is being reduced.
Yes, we've maximized it as much as we can without blocking entrances. We can't obviously the curb cut over here takes up a lot of space over here. This is a truck loading zone on 65th Street, so they do an entranceway to the opening for the museum, for the folk art museum. That's part of the property as well. But we've used as much as we can on Columbus Avenue to keep within DOT guidelines.
Okay, and the other question is, when is the scaffolding coming down? It's been there forever.
Am I permitted to talk about that? I do know that like I said, the sidewalks will be done. They are scheduled to be done by August. So at least the sidewalks around all sides, but I know they're currently on the 4th floor of the church and working their way downwards. So I think that'll be another year, or I think another year, but the sidewalks themselves will be done this September, by September.
We'll see.
Jane.
Hi, thank you very much. I am unclear on the, I assume just backing up 1 second, I assume the current planters are coming out because they are not functional and taking up too much space. Is that correct?
I mean, it's a myriad of different things. One, they're not the DOT standard. They were in places like downtown around on Hudson Street near like the passport offices. They're all gone because they're just big, they're bulky, they crack easily, which on this site they are doing. So DOT asks that if you go back in with new planters for a new revocable consent, that you meet stricter guidelines, which are more square, easier. They take up less space, so it's more pedestrian access to walk by. Yeah.
Which leads me to my question, my real question here. And forgive me if you said this, I'm unclear on what the new planter is made of.
Sure, I'll go back to Michelle on that one.
Yeah, so those planters will be made out of a composite material like GRFC. So they'll be lightweight and very, very resistant.
Yeah,
You mean to resistant to weather, sun, water, etc.
Right, correct.
Yeah, it's a glass fiber reinforced concrete box. So yeah, it's durable. You can take an impact, especially with the saturated soil on the inside too. But the intent is for it to be, it's a material that's a lot more durable than just straight concrete, which is what's out there now.
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, anyone from the public? Anyone online from the public? If you want to speak, just raise your hand and I'll promote you. In the meantime, I will share my screen. I drafted a resolution that we could pass. James, if you want to stop sharing your screen.
Will do.
Thank you.
I hope it's allergies.
Yeah, that's pretty
It is
good.
allergies.
That's what they all say.
It's totally out.
James, is this to your liking?
Would you vote for this?
I would say, I did notice there's an extra comma after pits that should be, so 11 tree pit electrical sockets. Yeah, and the S2 can go, but then, yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect.
All the question?
Yeah, call the question.
Yeah.
All in favor?
I'd like to debate the
Great.
question.
Unanimous.
Excellent.
That passes. Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Spend your evening with us.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, have a good night, and hopefully
Thank you too.
We'll go next.
enjoy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. The next item is request for a no parking space in front of 70 West 107th Street.
That's
And
Ryan Terry.
Yeah, Ryan, you're promoted to panelist, so if you want to unmute yourself and share your screen. Ryan,
Hello.
can you hear us? Oh,
Yep.
perfect.
Yeah, I won't need to share my screen, I don't think. We don't have any visuals, but yeah, I'll keep this as brief as possible. I'm here as a parish council member at St. Mary Magdalene Orthodox Church, which is one of the tenants in the building. We occupy 3 of the floors. Basically, our concern is that 107th Street between Manhattan Ave and Columbus it's one lane. It's actually quite narrow relative to even some of the other 1-lane streets in the area. And so we have a lot of elderly people getting picked up, especially on Sundays for church from Accessoride or rideshare or otherwise. And, you can't really stop in front of the building. It just blocks traffic for the whole block. And there's been a lot of problems with that in the past. So we went ahead and got signatures from 4 out of 5 of the owners in the building, including us. And it's my understanding that the 5th owner they don't disapprove of it. We just weren't able to get in contact with them, or they were, didn't have an opinion on the matter. We'd also submitted this request to DOT, and they sent us back a letter indicating that they don't foresee any issue with that. Ken had sent over what I believe are the proposed but not yet fully accepted guidelines that the committee has for these sorts of matters. And I believe we meet all of those as well. The ones that I'm seeing that is required are the buildings located in a high density zone, either R6 through R10. I believe we're R8B. Building has informed DOT of its request and does not foresee an issue fulfilling the request. Pending Community Board 7 approval, like I just said, we've covered that. There is a single travel lane from the building. As I mentioned, we've covered that. High level activity at the curb, including frequent passenger pickup and drop off. I believe we meet that as well. We have signatures and support for 4 out of 5 owners in the building. Let's see your number 7 here. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Ryan, are the accessorides related to the church? Is that why they're coming?
Yes.
And are these parishioners coming who are disabled or what?
Yes, we have a few parishioners that are over 65 and they either take rideshare or accessoride as they're able.
Okay. And does this, does this just happen on Sundays or Saturdays, or is it
Well, I've seen it happen. Well, I'm usually at the church most of the day on Sunday, and even after everyone's gone, there'll frequently be traffic just stopping, to drop off or pick somebody up from other residents on the block, or not even in our building necessarily. But the street is it's too narrow for anyone to pass. So especially at that west end where there's a city bike installment, any stoppage at all on the street completely impedes traffic.
Any committee questions?
Could you repeat the location? I'm not able to.
It's
I'm not clear.
70 West 107,
Okay.
70.
And I can share the resolution as well. If you want to see their request, is that more helpful than looking at the resolution or for more questions? Yeah. Okay. I'll share the request.
And this would be a full-time zone, even though the issue is just on Sunday, mostly.
Is the issue just on Sunday, Ryan, or is this something it'd be useful 7 days a week?
Well, I mean, we frequently have multiple services through the week. We at least once a month we have a Saturday service, and then for certain seasons during the year we have services almost every day. So it's just for the church use. It's definitely just more than just Sundays. But like I said, I think it would benefit the whole building, and I think the signatures from the other residents attest to that. That just anytime they or anyone else has to stop in front of the building, it just completely impedes traffic on the block. And so it would just be great to have, one permanent no parking space directly to the east of the city bikes.
Go ahead, Doug.
What is the span of this zone? I mean, do you know how many feet or how many parking spaces that we're talking about? Or just linear feet really is what
I'm not familiar with what the city standard is, but I guess just whatever would be considered one space.
So it's one space
Maybe 25.
that an accessoride could pull into and pull out.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Call the question.
Shall we call the question?
Go ahead. We have one member of the public.
Oh, yeah.
I have a friend that lives up there and I went up there to see what this was when I saw it on the agenda. And on the corner of this building is a community space. And then in front of that on the street is city bikes. It's one spot. It's a luxury building on a block where no one speaks English, because I tried to talk to people. And it's a very narrow street. It's not like you can stop any car anytime to unload. So I came tonight to see the process, just to see the process of this, because when you get uptown, the streets seem to be narrower than they are downtown. Maybe it's just my imagination. But the interesting thing is that I couldn't talk to the residents because they didn't speak English.
You mean the residents of the block?
What's that?
The residents of the block.
The residents of the block, and then I went to the farmer's market.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Jay.
I assume we're about to vote. I'm gonna vote
Yeah.
against it for the same reasons we've discussed ad nauseum on all of these applications. There's hardly a building on the Upper West Side that doesn't have a similar story. Everybody wants one. As far as the residents of the building signing a petition. Nobody has ever signed a petition against one. Everybody wants one. Every building can tell the same story. And it's, I won't even mention.
I don't think that's an
because I
argument
don't wanna
against,
give a heart attack.
I just want to say, no one ever signed a petition for a parking spot. At some point, the city made this decision with
Well,
much less.
that's
Wait, I just want to
actually,
finish my
that's
point.
actually
I
not
just wanna-
true. We've
Can I-
had applications for parking spots from religious institutions, from
There are
schools.
13, wait, can I finish my point? There are 13,000 parking spots on the Upper West Side, and yes, maybe there are a couple that were done that way. But for the vast majority of the 13,000, they were imposed by the city in one full swoop without any kind of community input. So we are now spending all this time on one-offs when over 10,000 spots were just done without any community input. So I think anytime there's a compelling need to take one spot of course car storage away to provide a community asset, I think I think it's a great idea.
I just
I
also
think
want
it's
to
a
clarify
terrible idea.
that we, together as a committee, we discussed those guidelines for this, and the presenter said he met pretty much all of those guidelines. So this was like a consensus that we came through, that if they meet these guidelines, we should approve it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Jamie?
okay,
I have a question. I lost some of my train of thought because of the cogent remarks by Sophia. I do have a question for the presenter. So, and forgive me, you may have said this. So next to your building is a large, what seems to be community garden? What is this large open space that is on the corner? Did he talk to you?
yeah, it's a community garden.
That's a community garden there. Directly opposite the city bikes,
Across the sidewalk.
from the city bikes.
That's, Ryan, can you hear
Oh,
me?
no, it's in front of the city bikes.
Yeah,
So the city bikes-
that's correct. Yeah, there's directly adjacent to our building, to the west of our building is a community garden on the corner of Columbus and 107th.
Okay. Oh, the thing I was going to say to sort of coalesce all of the comments. When people request a no parking a no parking zone, they are essentially requesting a zone for some parking. It's just for the parking they need it for their people, the assessor ride, the ambulance, whoever's gonna be dropping off their grandmother, et cetera. They're just clearing space it's not an empty location where we're gonna put out our picnic table and have a barbecue. They're opening the curb for their vehicles to pull in.
Right.
So,
Temporary.
It's
Yes.
more dynamic.
understood, it's dynamic.
It's dynamic,
You
as
know, I
opposed to
like
strange.
dynamic parking,
Well,
but,
that's what
but
we're, what's on the
it's
agenda.
still about cars. It's not
It's
like it's
absolutely
about bikes.
all about cars.
Or,
There's
or,
no doubt about
or
that.
picnic tables or something
Yes.
else. Okay, just wanna say.
Okay.
That was my brilliant.
Great.
that I
Oh,
forgot
That's
from-
great. Okay,
Call
is
the
the committee
question.
done? We have one more member of the public that wants to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Street View shows that this is already a no parking zone from Tuesday through Friday from 8 to 10:30. So the temporary nature of it doesn't seem to be sufficient based on what you just heard from the center.
Just don't see the other side. Places.
Great, call the question.
Call the question.
All right, all in favor? 1, 2, 3. Jamie or
I'm still looking at the street view.
1, 2, oh, shall we wait?
Carrie, are you looking at the street view?
I have it up.
Okay, so do you see this no parking sign that's in front?
I thought we called the question.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, I think we can suspend the calling of the question. There's a fact issue here.
As our guest pointed out.
So
I didn't understand our guest comment.
what I'm
Was that-
seeing
Was that in
is,
support or?
that was in support.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's already a no,
I see a sign
I
that
see the
says no
sign.
standing anytime, pointing
Toward
from the
the
point
city
of the
bike.
city bike to station to the end of the block.
Right.
And then under that, it's
My
just a
point was nobody's
standard
using this as a
no
parking
parking
Oh, okay.
block from
Tuesday, Friday, 8:30 to 10.
Okay,
So
okay,
that's standard alternate side of the street.
Okay,
parking
okay.
So it's now covered by outside parking.
Yes.
Okay, got it. That's all I want.
What you
Okay,
seem
got
to
it.
describe as alternate side of the street parking. You said there's no parking on 3 days of the week from certain.
That's what Carrie
So
confirmed. I
that's
can't see
alternate
that
side of
sign
the
on my
street
vehicle.
Parking now, and we would be.
Tuesday, Friday.
Removing that to a loading for the.
Loading zone.
For that
No,
little
no parking.
place in front of the church. Okay.
Okay.
Synagogue.
Okay,
Let's
all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, all opposed? 1, all abstaining? Is that an abstention?
Yes. This
1,
is telling me that Community Board 7. It's just a shame. It really is a shame.
well, we haven't finished our vote, so, Carrie, were you gonna
I voted
vote?
yes.
You voted yes. I think I didn't vote. That's 9.
She doesn't.
So no abstentions, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, yeah.
You abstain, okay.
Great, thank
Okay.
you. Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan, this will go to a full board in, probably in September, although we might be able to fit it in if we have another full board meeting in, this month.
Great.
We can, we'll let you know.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're now in new and old business, and the only announcement was from DOT is that they're going to be uninstalling the station at West 94th Street and Central Park West and returning, and we're talking about city bikes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Subway station.
Yeah.
96th Street, go ahead.
Yeah, and returning the station to its original location at Central Park West and West 91st
Which
Street.
is my home station.
All right.
Yes.
Great.
That's it. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, wait,
Motion, so moved.
we did have the car share thing.
What is that? Just.
There's a letter that we got from DOT, letting us know that they
There's
have
an operator.
contracted with a new car share vendor called
I pack it.
iPacket. And they have one car share, space that they're putting or will put at, 1 West 64th Street. which
This is like a zip car
Yeah.
or.
Yeah, yeah.
And it'll be a parking.
1 West
space
64.
On the.
One, yeah, Route 64th,
On the
I guess,
street.
is Central Park West.
Oh, that's what I was talking about.
We were hoping they
That's where
could
they
come and present about it similarly to what they did with the e-bikes, but next time. Just to raise more
They just
awareness.
put them there. We don't vote on.
No.
We don't.
They're just advised.
I just feel that they should use that for their e-bike charging stations instead of giving it to Uber and Lyft.
If they're already doing, they sent us a letter saying they're doing it.
We
Why
don't
do
need to
have-
hear, we don't
why
need
do
to
we
hear
have
from.
to Take up an hour at a meeting to listen to. a
I'm down with that.
presentation? All right.
Well, we
That's a
had
bus street.
input.
Huh?
We had input.
No, I'm just saying, if it's done.
Yeah.
We
I
really
don't
didn't
know
want it.
necessarily if we really object. we can move
I
it.
think it's the dumbest thing
Uh,
they did.
Really object.
No, any other new business?
No.
If we really
Okay.
object,
No
write a
other
letter
new
back.
business.
You can write it.
Yeah, but we just.
Jamie can write it, Ken can write it. Letters don't really require, just a waste of time.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Like-
Aye.